everyone, welcome back to Life, Beauty and Inspiration. It's your girl Keemah.G. Who else would it be? So, I am back. I didn't do a video last week. You know why? Because I was in Jamaica. Jamaica. When they say Jamaica's sweet, Jamaica is sweet. If you got money to live good out there, you will be enjoying your life. I went for about 6 days. I relaxed, I regenerated, I refocused. I got to spend a lot of time with some of my family members, which is always a pleasure. And I also got to go to the Buju concert. Now listen, Buju's concert was historical. It was historical. It's a moment in time that when I look back, I'm gonna be able to tell my kids, I was there, girls. And it was a great vibe. It was a great energy. I'm telling you, that shit was organized. I shouldn't say shit, but that concert was organized so well. You understand that I didn't feel that I had to wait in line, nothing. I got to Circle, it was a Hero Circle, and then from Hero Circle, the buses came, picked us up and brought us to the stadium. I think it was organized well. I think it was just great. And it just made me just indulge and embrace in my culture. I'm from a Jamaican descent, so it's always good to understand your culture, to listen to the music, just to be around the people, and just to see people that you haven't seen in a long time. So I'm back, I'm regenerated, I'm refocused, I'm ready to start, and I'm ready to deliver you guys another video, okay? So this video is how to stop feeding into other people's energy. I'm not just saying any negative energy. Most of the time it's negative energy, but whatever energy that you don't want to feed into, how do you not feed into people's energy? The reality is that energy is all around us. It's all around us. No matter how much times we try to avoid it, no matter how much times we try to run away from it, at the end of the day, it's around us all the time. You want to be aware of people's energy because you don't want to be sucked into an energy that's not meant for you. When I was younger, not like I'm not young right now. Anyways, when I was younger, my grandmother always used to tell me, watch the company you keep. And I was always just like, Grandma, I could still be myself and hang around with people who are different than me. What are you talking about? And I used to challenge her all the time, and she's like, Keemah, you just don't understand. I'm telling you, watch the company you keep. So as a kid, I was very strong-minded. Some will say a little stubborn sometimes, and maybe I was. But at the end of the day, I was very set in myself and who I was, so I didn't really care. But as life started to unravel and responsibility got more, I started to get into this adulting thing, which sucks sometimes, I realized that I start to get lost in the sauce, right? So I started to get lost in the sauce, and when I started to rediscover who I was and started to work through myself and to heal, I realized at that moment exactly what my grandmother was saying. Exactly what my grandmother was saying. When my grandmother told me to watch out for the company that you keep, yes, she was talking about birds of a feather flock together, show me your friends, I'll tell you who you are, but she was also talking about energies. She used to say all the time, you know, Keemah, you know, if you hang around with 5 people that's doing one thing, as strong as you are, sometimes you may be sucked into the same thing too. And when I started to heal, and I was, you know, praying and speaking to my spiritual mentor, and I'll tell you my spiritual mama, you know what I'm saying, my spiritual mama, she ain't my mama, but she's my spiritual mama in the spiritual realm. I guess she's one of my mothers, and she told me about energy transferring and spirit transfers, and she spoke to me and she explained to me that how sometimes people are going to come around you with their energy, and if you're not strong mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, chances are you may be drawn into their energy, and that wasn't an energy meant for yourself. I'll give an example. You ever be in a mood, you be so good, you know, you're having a great day, you're chilling, you're good, you wake up, you're vibing, the enemy can't come touch you, or like, enemy, what's up? You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't touch me today. And then after, somebody calls you, and they're talking, but their energy is so poor. And then 2 seconds later, you start feeding into the same energy and you start speaking the same way they're speaking. You ever feel like that? Like, that's what I'm talking about. Energy is strong, energy is powerful, and if we don't know how to recognize how to not feed into people's energy, we're going to get sucked in. And then we're going to be a slave to people's energy. Like, do you want to be a slave to people's energy? Because I don't. Take it from me. When my spirit was weak, when my mental psyche wasn't as strong as it's getting stronger now, I was easily able to be sucked into people's energy. And obviously, that's because I wasn't as woke as I'm learning to be now. Maybe when I was a teenager, because I didn't have that much responsibility, so I had a lot to think about life. But with more responsibility and with more adulting, I lost focus. And when you lose focus, you'll get easily drawn into the sauce. And I ain't trying to be in anybody else's sauce besides for my own. So, how do you stop feeding into other people's energy? Let me tell you what I have learned to do. I can't speak for anybody else, but I'm sharing this part of my journey with you guys and letting you guys understand what I have learned to do to stop feeding into people's energy. And let me tell you something before I tell you guys these 3 things. At the end of the day, it doesn't happen overnight. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have learned, and if you know me from back then till now, I could be a very hard person on myself, but I am learning now more and more every time I miss a lesson, every time I fail at something, to not give up, to not be so easily discouraged, to get back on the journey and keep pushing, keep trying so I could transform. That's the whole thing for this year. That's what I'm trying to, promote on this channel. So at the end of the day, when I tell you these 3 things, and if you try to implement them in your own life, you can do it if you want. If you don't, it's okay. But at the same time, when you mess up or you fall short, don't get so down on yourself. Just keep picking yourself back up. So let me stop with all this yibba yabba, you know what I'm saying, and to let you guys know how I learned to stop feeding into people's energy, and the 3 things that I take with me all the time. Now, I do my best to take with me all the time to help me to stop feeding into people's energy. So, let me share with you guys. The first thing that I try to do is to face it head on. At the end of the day, we hear these quotes all the time. All the time we be hearing these quotes like, stay away from people that do this, stay away from people that do that, stay away from people that do that. And that's fine. But if you constantly just stay away from everybody that has a poor energy or a negative energy or any type of energy that's influencing you other than your own, that means that you're just gonna have to live in a hole. At the end of the day, energy is going all over the place. So for you to constantly try to avoid every single energy out there, it's not realistic. So the first thing I've learned to do, if I can, is to face it head on. And the only way that I'm able to face it head on is if I strengthen myself mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. It's a work in progress. So when I see somebody come into me and say, for example, I walk into work and Betty is just an example, I walk into work and Betty is just complaining about every and anything. We all complain sometimes, so I can't act like I'm not a not complainer. But if I'm not in that mood, you understand, or I'm not trying to stay in the mood if I was complaining prior to walking in there, I walk in and I face it head on. I accept that the energy is poor, and I remind myself while I'm dealing with this person and the energy that they're giving off, not to feed into it. For me to be able to walk into somewhere and face someone's energy face on without it affecting my own energy or increasing my energy that I already feel that is probably poor, I have to strengthen myself mentally, I have to strengthen myself emotionally, and I have to strengthen myself spiritually. You're probably wondering, how am I going to strengthen myself in those areas? And how I've learned to strengthen myself in those areas is by enriching my mind with things that's going to promote a positive, healthy mental stability, emotional stability, and spiritual stability. So I listen to things on a daily basis. I wake up sometimes and I throw on some TD Jakes to remind me that, you know what, because TD Jakes be telling you the truth and he'll get you out of your feelings, or I put on a little bit of, some conscious reggae, or I put on some uplifting music, something to strengthen my core. I pick up my Bible and I read. I'm trying to read the Bible. I'm really trying to read the Bible, but I struggle with that. Or I have a prayer book where I constantly pray, or I write down prayers. You have to enrich yourself with healthy things, with things that's going to support your mental, spiritual, and emotional health. And that's how, when I go out there and I go to work, example, and I see Betty who's complaining, You know what I'm saying? I'm just like, remind yourself, Betty's in a shitty mood. She's allowed to be in a shitty mood. She's complaining right now. And these are the things that I be telling myself. Like, straight up, I be talking to myself in my head. As long as I'm not answering myself, it's cool. But I be talking to myself in my head and say, don't feed yourself into, do not feed into this behavior. This is her energy. That doesn't mean that you have to take it with you. The second way how I learned not to feed into people's energy is by actively listening. And I know this has been a big struggle for me over the years. I find over the years when I was not actively listening to people, I was so easily drawn into their energy. Because whatever they were feeding off, I wasn't really truly listening. Because how people present something and where it comes from is two different things, I've learned. So you could be presenting it in a way where it looks like the whole situation is a reason for you to be negative and complaining, but then if you really listen to a person, you'll understand that it probably has more to do with the person rather than the situation. And when I was not actively listening to people, I was easily drawn into their energy. And that's one thing that I have learned to start doing, and I do my best to implement it in my life. So if I walk into work and Betty is complaining, some people complaining because it makes sense. You have a reason to complain. It's a valid reason. But if I should strongly listen to Betty and I really tune into what she's saying, I will learn to understand that sometimes Betty may be speaking from sense because the situation is BS, or Betty just wants to complain and her spirit is just messed up today, her energy is just whack, and she's just miserable. We all go through those days, it's okay. But for me to not allow that energy to jump into mine and for me to be authentic with my own energy and to live in my own energy without it being influenced by other people, I have to actively listen. I have to actively listen and understand where that person's coming from. And that's when I could determine, am I going to take on this person's energy or am I not going to take on this person's energy? The last thing that I do to prevent myself from taking on someone's energy is that sometimes I don't engage. Somebody is constantly giving off negative energy, if somebody is constantly having a poor energy all the time, and I just know that this is where this person's at, this is their life, you know what I'm saying, for the moment, I'm not going to engage. Like I said before, some people have a certain energy that they give off, which could be poor or negative, and maybe it's their venting, complaining. You know, complaining is not the most positive energy that you want to give off. But sometimes people are complaining because of a situation that doesn't make any sense, and that person has a right to complain. And then there's some people that complain for no damn reason besides for the fact that they are just miserable. And we've all been there before. But why am I going to entertain that energy? Why am I going to do it? It's not going to be beneficial for me, and it's not beneficial for the person. So I have learned to not engage when it comes to situations like that. But like I said before, if they have a valid reason for the energy that they're giving off, and I could understand them, and I could listen to them and hear them out, and I could just be like, okay, and if my energy could change their energy, you understand what I'm saying? That I'm going to do that. But I got to the point in my own journey that I was just like, I don't want to be a slave to other people's energy. I don't want to be a slave to other people's energy. I don't want people to have that much power over me. You understand? So if I walk into a room and a room is completely negative, there's 10 negative people in there complaining, not having any type of hope, just completely discouraged, if I sit in that room for too long, you understand what I'm saying? As much as I'm strong in all these areas, at the end of the day, if I sit there for too long, I might end up starting to sound like them. And if I get to that point where I'm constantly surrounded by poor energy like that, and I'm the only person that's trying to be at least a little bit positive, I'm gonna not engage. And the less I engage is the less that I will feed into that poor, bad, negative, just shitty energy. So when my grandmother told me to watch the company that I keep, at that point in time in my life, when you're young like that and all you care about is the importance of having friends, you don't really understand what she's talking about. But I think from the moment I said to myself that I was going to work on myself, and I understood what the transfer of spirits, and I understood energy, I really started to understand what she meant years ago. It's not that she didn't believe that I understood who I was, but she also understood life. And she also understood that experiences in life could affect people. And it could affect us mentally, it could affect us spiritually, it could affect us emotionally. And when we are weak in those areas and we subject ourselves to certain energy, we're more to be pulled in to that person's energy. So I understand what she meant now. You know what I'm saying? I understand what she meant now. And that's why it's very important for you to feed young people's minds with knowledge, because they may not get it when they're teenagers, but when they grow older and they are forced to put in the work to heal, they'll understand everything that was said to them before in the past. When I was aware that I was very sensitive energies, I had to strengthen myself. You know what I'm saying? And I had to strengthen myself, and I had to figure out how to not feed into their energies. I really had to figure out what worked for me, and those are the 3 things that worked for me. I had to take it on, face on, knowing, you know what I'm saying, I'm gonna face it straight up. I'm gonna go for it and be like, yo, that's your energy you're giving off, but you can't touch me. You know what I'm saying? Like, you ain't coming for me. If anything, let my energy change your energy. And then just by listening to people, I struggled with active listening for the last like 5 years, because I was so in my own circle and trying to figure out this depression and this sadness and this loss, and I was mourning. So I wasn't paying attention and listening. I was completely off guard. You know what I'm saying? And when you're off guard, you're easily to just fall into anything. And I was just falling into people's energy until I woke up, and I was just like, no, let me listen very clearly, you know what I'm saying, to see what people are saying, and start to understand the energy that they're giving off. And then there's some times where I'm just like, yo, I'm just not feeling that energy. It's always the same energy coming from the same direction. And if that's the direction that it keeps on coming from, I'm just gonna not engage in that direction. And hopefully when that person or whoever it is comes my way, that they can be influenced by my energy. So I know I said a lot in this video, but I'm hoping that you guys can take something from this video. So stay fly, stay fabulous, stay godly, stay blessed, stay prayed up, stay all the way up, and have yourselves a great day. As always, baby, as always, y'all know what I'm gonna say, from my journey to yours.